Okay, guys, look. I got a lot of things I need to review and talk about in so little time. Not to mention there's stuff outside the channel I need to do, so you know how it is. So I was thinking, here's an idea. Multitask. Or in other words, cheat so I can get ahead. I'm gonna review 3 webcomics in one video. Now I know what you're thinking. But Henry, if you're doing 3 reviews in one video, wouldn't that make it harder to give each one of these comics a proper review? Pfft, bitch, please. I got this. Oh, one more thing. We're going to be following a very special theme this episode. And that theme would be female superheroes as the main characters. Time to ride the lightning. Lighter Than Air. Made by Spano and the lovely Naylim. Lighter Than Air is an adventure story that takes place in a fictional fantasy world that is mostly modeled after Germany in the World War II era. Now, when you hear me say that this comic is, modeled after World War II, you probably would think that, there's probably a little war in this comic. Well, let me tell you, yes. Very, very hateful war. Which is mainly between 2 countries. Zamora and Steinbeck. Steinbeck is a country that is mostly focused around the advancement of technology and human enhancement. While Zamora, on the other hand, is a country that is centered around the traditional ways of strengthening their homeland and is resentive of the Steinbeckian technology. Or so they claim to be. Kinda hard to believe when said country is well invested in Steinbeck weapon technology. Then again, 100 years of war will do that. But still, what did Steinbeck do to turn this nation of Amish-like folk into a third world country? Oh, right. Well, there's your reason for why the countries hate each other. Let's move on to something like the main character. Yeah. Zeppelin von Solchais. Zeppelin is a 19-year-old girl who has recently enlisted in the Steinbeck military. She joined the military in order to become her country's next greatest hero. Much like her late father before her. Having her head so far up her ass, she pretty much thinks herself as the country's greatest prized possession. And you would stop and think, well, what makes her so great that she's better than any other soldier? Well, here's the deal. She has superpowers that allow her to fly and manipulate air around her. You see, her and her father are products of a superhuman race called Volants that can move and fly at supersonic speed. Having all this, I guess you could see why she's so confident and why the country considers her to be such a big asset. But that doesn't really change the fact that she's still a newbie soldier that's freshly been thrown into a war that's repeated itself time and time again. And not to mention, she pretty much gets a veteran's experience by the handful. And that's another noticeable thing about this comic. It paints a good scenario of bloody war. War is hell is what this is going for. The hate between nations and races, being on the verge of death, experiencing what it's like to take a life for the first time, learning the difference between being a good guy and a soldier, betrayal, and witnessing firsthand the effects of bearing arms for war would do to a country. All things that would change a person. And believe me, it probably does. If I had $1 for every time someone in that comic had a mental breakdown, I'd probably have enough to buy a pizza. But the point is, it all builds character, mostly for Zeppelin. Yes, she might be a pompous dickhead who's strong-willed but yet needs to act tough. But it also shows she has a long way to go before she's anything like her father, let alone better. That she needs to learn leadership. And that she needs to respect and trust her comrades before they can do the same in order for her to survive. And hopefully, I'll see that progression as pages continue to update. And when the author isn't updating, she's probably just animating shit on her YouTube channel, Nailem Tunes, even though it's been a long time since she updated that. But hey, if it supports her, then fine. I'll gladly feed the fire and read and watch whatever she puts out. Supernormal Step by Michael E. Lunsford. In a modern-day fictional fantasy world that's in a parallel dimension from Earth, where vampires, demons, aliens, furries, and anything else your twisted mind can think of not only exist, but they are also everyday civilians. Not only that, but magic is real and is an extension of every living organism, and also for some reason is distributed as a product. In this extremely bizarre world where anything can happen, we follow the adventures of Fiona Day and her two completely idiot friends.
Oh, Fiona, your fist has touched my heart.
Okay, so here's Fiona's problem. She's not from this world. She's from our world. You know, the regular one. She was just minding her own business till she was suddenly ripped from her home and pretty much just sucked up into this random dimension. How did that happen? Well, a couple of jackasses were like, hey, you know what'd be cool? Playing around with a random spell book. And boom. Why they were trying to summon a random person, I don't know, kicks? Anyway, trapped in a mad world where absolutely nothing makes sense, she desperately fights and looks for a way back home. And she's usually accompanied by this guy, a sociopathic nutcase with super strength who was cursed to be turned into a stuffed animal, and this half-humanoid lady with whale skin and 4 arms. Now you may stop and ask the question, why would she want to go back home? She's in a modern-day civilized world where magic exists and any piss-punk loser can become a hero. It's what every Legend of Zelda and WoW fanboy can dream of. Well, that style of living ain't for everybody. She feels as if she doesn't belong there, and that she and everybody else would be better off if she never came there in the first place. Why? Probably has something to do with all the people trying to kill her and all the weirdos keeping tabs on her. Also, that the world she lives in just doesn't feel right for her, and that every second she spends in it, she loses a bit of her sanity. In all honesty, I don't blame her. If I lived in a world where a penguin's a governor, there are mind-controlling werewolves rampant in the street, we had the same president for 400 years, and that Taco Bell and Carl's Jr. didn't exist, I'd probably flip my shit too. But Supernormal Step. Yeah, that was a great story. I gotta give this story credit though for knowing how to build up their characters and make them more interesting, even when you don't understand why. I mean, most of the time it kind of feels like the villains and the people in charge kind of play it up as if she has some huge role to play in some kind of master plan, even when you don't get any clarification why. But still, as the story goes on, you find out more about her past and more about her personality that just leaves you wondering more. Another thing I love about this comic is the author's art style. I wouldn't say it's evolution, more like complete and utter change from one style to the next. After like the 5th chapter, you're not really sure if it's the same artist. It leaves me to wonder if said person had any projects before this one. Probably should have asked that with the other 2 stupid questions I asked the author on his Tumblr page. The first 2 being stupid because it kind of just asked him the same question over again. You see, I was under the impression that the comic was coming to an end within probably the next 2 or 3 chapters, which the author informed me that that wasn't true. Embarrassed, I kind of just asked him if he was working on anything outside the comic or if he was going to do something right after, which he simply replied to me, no. Chaos in the Tropics by someone who calls himself Scribblehatch. Okay, there's not a lot to talk about in this one because it's still sort of new, but I'll try to do my best to fill in some of the blanks since I really want to talk about this. In a pocket dimension surrounded by dense energy called Limbo is a planet named Astrea. In this futuristic world where most of the continents are just beach islands, we have the lovely young surfer girl Kiki Kafloria. And yes, I know some people say she looks as if she can be Natsu Dragonel's twin sister, but that's not the point. And it doesn't really even matter to me. I still hit that. Getting back on topic though, her story begins one fatal night when she was wandering out on a beach and mysteriously stumbles upon a cave. She explores deeper into it, then finds a mysterious book and a random cloth. Thinking nothing of it, she decides to go home and take it with her. The next day, she decides to head out with cloth in hand, to discover that somehow that her speed and strength were increased immensely. She then makes the discovery that the book she found was actually the diary of a legendary warrior who had invincibility and humongous strength, and that the cloth she found was actually the source of his power. Soon after, a bunch of strange and dangerous characters show up and start threatening her home. As the new one and only wielder of this power, she must use it to protect her world. I wish there was more for me to talk about in this comic, but the story hasn't really developed far enough for me to do that. The comic would be further along by now, but it's been on a hiatus recently because of reasons. I'm gonna have to talk about this again in the future. I am gonna review 2 out of 3 of these comics again anyway. This comic's really good though. I hope it progresses faster so I can see where it leads. And I like the main character. Even if she does seem to act mostly on impulse, she does quickly learn from any mistake she makes. And I'll give the author credit for world and universe building. Pretty much since they mention another world later on in the story besides Astrea. I expect big things when the hiatus is over. Until then, we're all fresh out of luck. Oh well. Back to Tumblr in the meantime. Fuck, not again. And there you have it. 3-round knockout review. Watch me never do this again because damn, that's a lot of work I have to do for pay I'm not even getting yet. Please like my videos. I need monies. Till then, this is Henry Volt, signing out.